morning, and God's peace be with you. My name is Kristofer, and I'm one of the priests at St. Francis Episcopal Parish-Epiphany Community Center. It's good to have a little bit of time to talk with you today. I was reflecting on a drive that I took with my family not that long ago. We were over in an area of our state that had a lot more farmland, and we were driving through terrain that had lots of crops that had passed their time. They'd gone to seed. The harvest had been reaped, and we were looking at the remains. And it got me thinking a lot about that as my 7-year-old was asking questions about what we were seeing as we drove past. And when we find ourselves in different terrain, when we make note of the growth that's occurring around us, we begin to focus in on some of that and ask questions that invite us to reflect and learn and grow. This is an exciting space to get into. Curiosity enables us to think different, to wonder, and to imagine our lives and the world that we're a part of in different ways. You've heard me say many times before that, as part of this creation that God is making, we are called to be stewards of that, and there's a lot of important work that we're called to do in that. This past Sunday, we gathered with your vestry, with the vestry of St. Francis Parish, and I had invited our vestry to contemplate our mission, this temporary statement that has brought us in focus and in purpose through this past year, to grow as one in God's love. Now, that's not the fullness of it, but that's what we're focusing on for our reflection, growing as one in God's love. I wonder what that looks like to you. I wonder what that feels like in your life to grow as one. And I wonder especially how you see us as a congregation, a new congregation, growing as one. I wonder how you see us as a congregation and community center growing as one. I was in awe of the responses that our leaders offered, and we're in the process of collecting them to be able to share them with you all as part of a report out to the congregation as part of our annual meeting efforts, which in this time of pandemic are going to be different than we've ever done before. But I was pondering the reading for today. The assigned reading in the gospel comes from Matthew 13, verses 24 to 30. We're told that Jesus put before the crowd another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, "Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from?" He answered, "An enemy has done this." The slaves said to him, "Then do you want us to go and gather them?" But he replied, "No, for in gathering the weeds you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn." Now, I didn't grow up in a farm. I have worked and lived on a farm in my life. Maybe some of you have, and maybe some of you are gardeners that this metaphor really connects deeply with. When Jesus teaches in parables, when he invites us to ponder the kingdom of heaven and to imagine its transformative power in our lives, I think this is a really important indicator of the need for us to pay attention, to go as deeply as we can as Jesus plants us in fertile soil to grow. In this parable, we're told of how the wheat was allowed to grow forth, even though weeds had been sowed in their midst. And and there's this harsh line about collecting the weeds first and then bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. As I think about the disciplines of growing, of cultivating, of harvesting, these are powerful, powerful words that invite us to think about what God is doing in our lives now. It might be us that play these roles of planting and sowing and watering and harvesting, but we are told in Paul's letters that it is God that gives the growth. And when we invite ourselves to remember that we're a part of that larger ecosystem, not the ecosystem that has us separated and disconnected, but this ecosystem that invites us to be aware of how we are connected to each other, how we are connected to God, and how God is growing through us as our lives are bound up in that harvest, as we abide in the vine, as we grow like the mustard seed. There's so many parables that Jesus pointed us to. Whatever growth it is that God is about in our lives, I am so grateful for it, and I am so grateful for the ways that we are growing together. There are challenging times. These are challenging times that we are in, but it is just inspiring to feel God growing through us, to be laborers together in the vineyard, co-creators with God in this planting and harvesting process. Thanks for being a part of St. Francis Parish-Epiphany Community Center. Thanks for the growth that you have turned yourselves over to. And as God turns the soil of our hearts and minds over, may we continue to grow and bear much fruit. Christ's peace be with you.